Broadcasting Bureau. It's midday. Hello, good afternoon to you and welcome to the Citi Prime News on 97.3 Citi FM. We are live from our studios at number 11 Dr. Martin Loop in at Dabraka, Accra. The news is also live on all our partner stations across the country and around the world. We are live on citynewsroom.com. My name is Hawa Idrisu Mustafa. Coming up, former Speaker of Parliament Professor Aaron Mike Okwe rejects NDC's calls for the removal of 4 NPP MPs from the chamber, questioning the basis for the petition.
The benefit is not his. The law does not stand to his annulment. That's why I talk about husband and a wife.
Meaning he has no locus?
He has no locus.
Because he doesn't belong to the MPP?
Because he doesn't belong to the party involved.
Also coming up, the High Court in Accra grant a 20,000 cedis bail to convener of Democracy Hub protest group Oliver Baka Vomao. Still ahead, minority raises concerns over government allocation of 1,000 cedis each to about 800,000 farmers affected by the dry spell in the northern region, saying it was meant to buy votes.
This country went into crisis because of the way COVID money was spent. COVID money was spent. Are we going to hide behind the same dry spell and send this country to another crisis?
And later, a former Black Stars defender calls on GFA to shift focus from immediate goals like the AFCON 2025 and World Cup 2026 to developing a long-term plan to rebuild the team. But what do Ghanaians think of the current form of the senior men's national team?
Since Stephen Appiah, Olele, Michael Essien, those squad, since they left the scene, the interest in football it looks like they took football away.
All that and more on Citi Prime News, which is live on all our affiliates across the 16 regions of the country. In the Western region, we are live on Premier FM 100.5 in Takoradi, Beach FM 105.5 also in Takoradi. Bono region, we are live on GLIF FM 95.5 in Sunyain. Ashanti region, this is Orange FM 107.9 in Kumasi. Volta region, we are live on Akweni Radio 96.7 in Pando. Heritage FM 107.3 in Hohoi. Northern region, we are live on Dasuma FM 99.1 in Yendi. Upper East, Word FM 88.3 in Zwarungu. Upper West, we are live on West Link 88.1 in Laura, and Northeast region, we are live on Eagle FM 94.1 in Wale Wale.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers.
Grateful for choosing us. Now, a former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, has criticized the minority NDC for demanding that 4 MPs are removed from the chamber over a decision to run as independent candidate in the December polls. The minority seeks to have the seat of the MPs for Aguna West, Suhum and Amenfi Central declared vacant. Additionally, the minority argues that the Fomina seat should be declared vacant due to the independent MP's decision to contest the 2024 elections under the NPP's banner. However, speaking to Accra-based Joy FM, Professor Mike Okwe, who removed an NPP MP from the chamber in a similar fashion for 4 years ago, argued that the NDC has no grounds to move a motion affecting the other side of the House.
Just like it happened in the case of Andrew Esiama in 2020. This is fighting the speaker to declare the seat vacant. Procedurally, is how I do so right?
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
Why do you say so?
Because the benefit is not his. The law does not stand to his annulment. That's why I talk about husband and a wife.
Meaning he has no locus?
He has no locus.
Because he doesn't belong to the MPP?
Because he doesn't belong to the party involved. Is it you who should say there's a problem in my house? You say there's a problem, I have a problem with my wife. And I'm saying I have no problem with my wife. What are you talking about?
You had a former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, speaking to Joy News. Now, convener of the Democracy Hub protest group, Oliver Baka Vomao, has been granted bail to the tune of 20,000 cedis. Mr. Baka Vomo was arrested for his alleged involvement in disturbances that ensued at a protest against illegal mining, also known as Galamsey. He has been charged with count of stealing, unlawful assembly, unlawful damage, assault of a public officer, and offensive conduct conducive to the breach of peace. He was denied bail by the Accra Circuit Court and further remanded by the High Court when his lawyers appealed the Circuit Court's ruling. The High Court judge, who was concerned whether Mr. Baka Vomao would not commit another offence if granted bail, as he already was on bail for treason felony charges at the time of the alleged offences, warned to grant bail if prosecution failed to commence the trial. His lawyers thus repeated the bail application at the High Court, which was subsequently granted. Let's still stay with issues to do with the court, and the High Court in Accra has adjourned to October 21 to deliver a ruling on the motion filed by the People's National Convention flag bearer Bernard Mwona, challenging a decision by the Electoral Commission to disqualify him from contesting in the 2024 presidential elections. The Electoral Commission has explained its disqualification of about 11 persons who filed to contest was because of errors identified on their nomination forms. Bernard Mwona, however, is accusing the Electoral Commission of breaching constitutional provisions by not giving him an opportunity to correct the wrongs. The Commission disputed this claim, explaining that the particulars of mere errors were pointed out to the aspirant. However, errors that are criminal in nature were not pointed out to the aspirant. But in court on Wednesday, lawyers of Bernard Mwona insisted that the Commission acted in excess of its discretionary powers. In an interview with the media shortly after proceedings today, lawyer for Bernard Mwona, Harold Atuguba, urged the Commission to hold on to all electoral activities relating to the presidential election until the court makes a determination. Let's now go live to Parliament, and the minority has raised concerns over the government allocation of 1,000 cedis each to about 800,000 farmers affected by the dry spell in the northern region. They allege that the government is attempting to buy votes from the affected farmers by distributing funds that have not been approved by Parliament. The government recently announced an 8 billion cedi package to provide relief and mitigative measures for the farmers. However, the minority believe this gesture could worsen the country's economic situation, viewing it as a politically motivated move.
We are concerned because not long ago, this country went into crisis because of the way COVID money was spent. COVID money was spent. Are we going to hide behind the same dry spell and send this country to another crisis? The Speaker, we should get involved. In an election year, we should get involved. And that is why we are saying that the minister must be invited properly. He must appear to this, he must appear before us properly and then present to us what is called the so-called dry spell and the amount of money you are spending, because we have not approved for you to spend any money on this dry spell. We have not approved for you.
He had the minority leader in Parliament, Dr. Kezila Tufos, and meanwhile, the majority leader, Alexander Penyomarkin, defended the government's allocation of 1,000 cedis to farmers affected by the dry spell in the northern region, stating that the initiative is part of the government's commitment to alleviating the suffering of citizens through social interventions.
What is wrong if our farmers are getting 3,000? Farmers have lost their livelihood. Mr. Speaker, the farmers in the north have lost their livelihood, especially the women. They've lost their millets, they've lost their maize, Mr. Speaker, and government is giving them cash. Feed. Should we watch them to die? Mr. Speaker, no. This government believes in social intervention and is supporting them. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that we should continue to support government to undertake this exercise. However, I agree to the suggestion that there should be greater transparency.
We have the majority leader in Parliament, Alexander Apenyo, marking. Now, the medical superintendent of the Josso Government Hospital, Dr. Edward Osei-Appiah, has called for urgent measures to address key road crash hotspots along the Kumasi-Accra Highway and also enforce road safety regulations to curb high rate of fatal crashes on the stretch. He highlighted the frequent accidents at the hotspot, citing the poor conditions of sections of the highway and reckless driving by some motorists as a reason. Dr. Osei-Appiah noted that the accident-prone areas, which include from Konongo to Josso, from Josso to Pearl River Junction, and the Dadieso section, emphasizing the need for immediate intervention to reduce fatalities on the highway.
When you take Josso to Konongo or Konongo to Josso, the main hotspot is around the cemetery area. Why is that place a hotspot? You realize that after Konongo, the road has a lot of potholes. And what I have noticed is that drivers and road users don't stick to the rules. Mostly they look at where the potholes are minimum and then they drive through that area, whether there is an oncoming vehicle or not. And that results in most of the accidents. Let me take Josso Junction to Pearl River Junction. After the Josso Junction, there is a 3-lane. When you are coming from Accra, it's a climbing lane. When you are heading towards Accra, it's a descending lane. And you realize that the road regulation states those climbing will use 2 of the lanes and then those descending use 1. But what normally happens is the drivers don't adhere to this regulation. From Atridie to Pearl River Junction, when you go past Atridie, you realize that you enter into the forest with lots of curves, and then also there are descending and ascending lanes. And so getting a long stretch to see ahead of you is very difficult. But you realize that users of the road, drivers, they just overtake anyhow without recourse to the nature of the road. And so mainly that is what the road, the state of the road is, and what results in most of the accidents that are recorded here.
Dr. Osei-Appiah is further advocating for more public education and enforcement to reduce the accidents on the highway.
I would say that we should, all of us, I'm a driver myself, we should adhere to the road safety regulations. And also, we should listen to our instincts when we are sitting behind the steering wheel. It is obvious that if you are overtaking in a curve where you do not have access to a long stretch to see if there is any oncoming vehicle, the likelihood of you encountering a vehicle in the opposite lane is very high. So people just gamble. Sometimes some of them think that, let me go. If a vehicle is coming and then comes face to face, it will either go into the bush or to give way for me to pass. And that's a very serious assumption to make. And accidents do occur in split seconds. So I advise road users to try as much as possible to allow common sense to be at play when they are behind the steering wheel.
That was the medical superintendent of the Josso Government Hospital, Dr. Edward Osei-Appiah. Now, teachers in the southern district of the Volta region are calling for improved conditions of service, particularly for those working in deprived and rural areas. They argue that the challenging conditions in these areas make it difficult for them to perform effectively and demand that authorities prioritize their welfare. In an interview with Citi News, the Southern District Education Director Celestine Kosi Agodo called for a fair treatment of teachers, emphasizing that they should not be denied their basic rights and entitlements.
The teacher also wants to see improvement in his life. The teacher also wants to be given opportunity, especially those in the hinterlands, things that they need to benefit from, especially those allowances previously which was given to teachers in deprived areas. If it can be brought back, some of those things will let them also feel at home and be recognized. And for that matter, when you post a teacher to such areas, they wouldn't see it as a form of punishment. They will see that it's a call to duty. For the fact that I am living in a deprived area, it doesn't mean whatever I need to improve upon my life as far as professional development is necessary. It doesn't mean I should be denied. So these are some of the few things they need. And above all, the salary. That one is a fight. We cannot fight at the grassroots here. But whenever issues of the teachers are being mentioned, they shouldn't forget. Whatever the professionals are doing, we the teachers, we taught them all.
That was the Southern District Education Director, Celestine Kosi Agodo. This is still the Citi Prime News on 97.3 Citi FM. With me, Hawa Idrisu Mustafa. Still to come, a former Black Stars defender calls on Ghana Football Association to shift focus from immediate goals like the AFCON 2025 and World Cup 2026 to developing a long-term plan to rebuild the team. But what do Ghanaians think of the current form of the senior men's national team?
Since Stephen Appiah, Olele, Michael Essien, we know those squad. Since they left the scene, the interest in football it looks like they took football away.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Updates you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Channel 1 TV is live on DSTV, GoTV, and HD+. On DSTV, find us on Channel 363. On GoTV, we're on Channel 117. And on HD+, get us on Channel 108. On a digital TV, run a new search. But take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Channel 1 TV. Channel 1 TV can be accessed on any free-to-air digital box, like the DSTV and HD+ boxes. Channel 1 TV, telling your story, empowering change.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Updates you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Grateful for staying with us. Let's bring you more stories. And the Assembly member for Saboba Central in the Northern Region, Daniel Nwabi, is appealing for support for those affected by flood waters. Several communities in the Saboba district have been cut off with roads linking them submerged by flood waters. Before we hear from the Assembly member, here's a report on the situation found by our Northern Regional correspondent, Mohammed Aminu M. Alabira.
It's that time of the year again when the entire Saboba district in the northern region becomes isolated from the rest of the country. Each year, during the rainy season, water from the dam at Wapuli and Palba overflows, submerging the roads and creating major challenges for road users. In recent weeks, the area has experienced heavy rainfall, causing the dam to overflow once more. As a result, cars can no longer travel between Saboba and Yendi. When Channel 1 News visited the site, local youth were assisting motorcycles and other travelers to cross the flooded area. Motorcycles are being charged 50 cedis by the youth to help them cross. A spokesperson for the youth explained how their presence is essential for commuters.
All those from Saboba crossing to our place side, and those coming from our place side to Saboba, they can cross. So we are here helping them. Some we back them and then cross them because they can't swim. And the motors to have to use sticks and then race it and then cross it. A motorbike will cross 50 cities, some 70.
Some of the affected travelers shared their frustration, describing the difficulties they face whilst trying to navigate the flooded roads.
By water. So we are calling on the government and the agencies to come into our aid and support us. We are also part of the country. Our business are stuck because we can't go to Tamale. It's Tamale that we used to get our products to sell and also get income to pay our war school fees. But now the road is being blocked.
It's really affecting people of Saboba because as at this moment, they cannot refer somebody from Saboba to Yendi. Every year, this is what do happen. But this government will come and promise nothing will happen.
Cars, due to their low exhaust pipe, are unable to cross the water.
Apologies for the poor quality of that insert, but let's hear from the Assembly member for Saboba Central in the Northern Region, Daniel Nwabi, who is appealing for support for the affected residents.
For the flooding, is the whole Saboba district. We can say one community or other community, the whole place, the whole communities in Saboba district. And especially those who farm rice, farm, and maize and cassava. I don't think people can survive. if government not come and support us or not more. And the rules to from Palaba to Saboba there, that one we don't know the amount that will pass there. It's only what police that we pass there. That place is also flooded, and we don't know how best we can do.
Daniel Inwabi is the assembly member for Saboba Central in the northern region. Now, the vice presidential candidate of the National Democratic Congress NDC, that is Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, is urging the leadership of some tertiary institutions to avoid what she terms head splitting of educational disciplines. She says this will contribute to the unemployment situation in the sense that tertiary students will not be well-rounded for the market. Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman indicated that this will also put an extra burden on employers who will be left with no option but to employ extra hands to fill various positions, citing the University of Cape Coast example while addressing the leadership of some unions and tertiary institutions in Sunyai. Professor Opoku-Agyeman noted that the university's decision to avoid head splitting gave opportunities to the students on the job market.
Don't have the finance minister at a certain time in the year looking for millions of dollars and fighting with UTAG and all the unions over exchange rates. Is that the best we can do? And getting bad press all over the world. So you see, colleagues, and we engaged your leadership. So when we talk of these things, it's very serious. Then you can do proper proposal, cost it properly, get the money you need. Do the research. Get government to scale it up. Get industry to scale it up. You see, we are lecturers and we are so poor. Why should that be the case? So again, in focusing, that is why we established the new universities. University of Health and Allied Sciences. Sometimes we think of the health nurses, doctors, with all apologies. But the nurse also needs technical training. The technicians in the hospital need technical training. When you import all those nice machines come, and you have not upgraded your technical staff, what do you think can go wrong in the theatre?
Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman is the vice presidential candidate for the NDC. The Public Services Workers Union is threatening to embark on a strike from October 21 if the government fails to regularize salaries of members under the single spine salary structure. According to the group, the implementation of the policy has not been fair to public service workers since the government has refused to implement the recommendations of a review committee set up in 2022. If the group goes ahead with the industrial action, it will disrupt the work of institutions including the Electoral Commission. Here's General Secretary of the Public Services Workers Union, Bernard Ejay.
The government of Ghana implemented the single spine pay policy to regulate and ensure equity in the payment of public sector workers. After over 12 years of its implementation, the government set up a 9-member committee in April 2022 to review the single spine pay policy and submit a report within 3 months for consideration. We are aware that the committee was formed and has completed its work long time ago, but up until now, government has refused to implement or even bring the report to the attention of the stakeholders, which we believe would have helped to address some of the concerns that we have as public sector workers.
That was the General Secretary of the Public Services Workers Union, Bernard Ejay. The worker unions in the public universities of Ghana who embarked on an indefinite strike over poor conditions of service have called off their strike after a meeting with the government. The 7 unions include the Senior Staff Association of Universities of Ghana, the Ghana Association of University Administrators, and the Technical Universities Senior Administrators Association of Ghana embarked on an industrial action over failed negotiations with government. Their actions caused a delay in the reopening of public tertiary institutions across the country. Speaking to Citi News, the Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Education, Kwesi Kwatin Frimpong, says a consensus has been reached to address their issues.
It is important to emphasize that those unions or those labor groups, numbering about 7 of them, have called off their their industrial action. So as I speak with you, there is no strike so far as those unions are concerned. I think it's just quite unfortunate that recently UTAC's position on the Galamsey had to or let's take dominance or prominence over that news. And as I speak with you, we have the various letters or confirmations or communication speaking to that effect that indeed the strike action has been called off. So largely, when you go to the university in terms of the administrative staff, all of them are at post. Largely borders on their conditions of service. But I mean, I am not allowed to give specific details. But what I know is that APIS has reached an agreement and they built consensus as how they are going to resolve all issues that they raised.
Kwesi Kwatin Frimpong is the Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Education. Now, a former Black Stars defender, Sheila Iliasu, has urged Ghana and the national team to shift their focus from immediate goals like the African Cup of Nations and the World Cup and concentrate on developing a long-term plan to rebuild the team. This comes after the Black Stars' disappointing loss to Sudan in their March Day 4 fixture of the 2025 AFCON qualifiers in Libya, a result that has further jeopardized their chances of qualifying for the tournament in Morocco. The team's next crucial task is a match against Angola in Luanda. Securing all 3 points in this game will be vital to keeping their AFCON hopes alive, as failure to do so could significantly diminish their chances.
If you look at the FA, the governor, the Minister of Youth and Sport, the sort of support they give to the Black Star, not the national teams, the Black Star impact. It's unbelievable from how we go to our matches, our paid games, our bonuses, and still we find it very difficult. You know, with all due respect to Sudan, well, we all know maybe they're underdog when it comes to African football, but to be frank with you, fine, we created chances, we couldn't utilize it, fine. But what I saw yesterday, frankly speaking, I was very, very disappointed. And I think going forward, like you made it clear, I think the time has come for everybody, every Ghanaian, to let us understand that there's a problem with the team. And in order to build a very solid team, maybe we need to forget about AFCON. We need to forget about World Cup. And let's try to put a plan, either 5-year development plan, and let the whole country understand that there's a problem with the team. And let's give the coach, because I know we have been giving that maximum support and everything. Let's also understand that he should give us a plan.
That was a former Black Stars defender, Sheila Iliasu. Meanwhile, some Ghanaians have expressed disappointment in the Black Stars' performance following their defeat to Sudan in the 2025 AFCON qualifier. On the Citi Breakfast Show earlier this morning, several listeners voiced their frustrations, with some even calling for the dissolution of the Ghana Football Association.
I'm enjoying the show. It's so sad. Yesterday when I watched the match, it's so sad. Looking at 3 defenders, allowing 1 striker to just fly and score a goal. At least pull him down. I mean, if it is a free kick, it's normal. It's possible we can defend it.
Our football is on the edge of dying. But that is where the problem is coming from. And whoever that also employed this scout coach, which is Kate Wabon, Otuado Wasan.
Are you worried? You know, since Stephen Appiah, Olele, Michael Essien, you know those squad, since they left the scene, the interest in football is, it looks like they took football away. You don't know what is going on.
Those were some Ghanaians sharing their thoughts on Ghana's loss to Sudan. Now, international auditing firm Deloitte Ghana is urging the government to cut down on securing foreign loans in order to stabilize the monetary policy rate. This comes after the central bank lowered its monetary policy rate from 29% to 27% during the 120th Monetary Policy Committee meeting to reduce interest rates and ease the burden on borrowers. Addressing the press on behalf of the country managing partner at Deloitte Ghana at the launch of the first Ghana CEO Presidential Manifesto Gala dinner, lead tax partner at Deloitte Ghana, George Ankoma, tasked government to explore local means within the economy to substitute the borrowing from foreign avenues.
The reduction of the policy rate is always good. For me, I think what's important now for us to stabilize is also for government to look at its appetites for loans or foreign loans. I believe that if we focus on other areas within the economy that tend to reduce our appetite for foreign loans, and for that matter, whatever we need to pay out in terms of interest and debt repayment, that gives us a certain comfort within the economy in terms of the exchange rate, and given that policy rate going down, businesses will be able to borrow and be able to run their businesses effectively.
George Ankoma is lead task partner at Deloitte Ghana. And that's how we end today's edition of the Citi Prime News, which has been live from our studios in Adabraka in Accra, their election bureau. Kindly join the conversation with the hashtags Ghana Polls 2024 and Citi Verify. Please log on to our website, citynewsroom.com, for more stories. My name is Hawa Idrisi Mustafa. Thank you so much for your time.
Citi News. We speak first. Reach our hotline on 0302 224959 and get interactive on Facebook, Citi 97.3 FM, and on Twitter at Citi 973.
Citi 97.3 Accra.